So I want to discuss the current situation going on with Odell Beckham Jr., which has been pretty consistent since he won the Super Bowl with the Los Angeles Rams, tore his ACL, and since that point, with him being a free agent, there has been talk nonstop about where will Odell Beckham choose to go once he is fully healthy, recovering from that ACL tear. And it does seem like pretty soon he will be making his decision. He should be healthy sometime soon. And it recently came out from ESPN that he is expected to pick a team after Thanksgiving. So I want to discuss the teams that I think are the most likely to sign Odell. A couple that are more at the forefront, and win one sort of dark horse team that I think could make sense from some recent comments from some players on that team. But one thing we know about Odell Beckham Jr. is he is a master marketer. He is a genius when it comes to consistently getting people to talk about him. Even though he hasn't been playing in the league this year, wrestling with that torn ACL, recovering, he has been talked about nonstop by many different fan bases, partly because he sits in there on Instagram, on Twitter, responds to teams, gets people's hopes up, responds to players, gets those people's hopes up. He did it with the Packers, the Bengals, the Cowboys now is happening a lot, especially after this past win against the Vikings, 40-3. He tweeted, they went crazy today about the Cowboys. So he is very good at getting his name out there. And recently it did come out that he will be visiting with both the New York Giants and the Dallas Cowboys after Thanksgiving, and they both happen to be playing each other on Thanksgiving Day. So it looks like these two teams are most likely going to make the playoffs. We'll see if it happens, but it seems most likely that they could, and they both could use another weapon like Odell. I think any team would not have an issue with Odell joining their roster for whatever price that could be. But the Giants here, sitting at 7-3, they just lost rookie wide receiver Wan'Dale Robinson in their last game to a torn ACL. And earlier in the season, the Giants already lost Sterling Shepard as well to a torn ACL. So the Giants are in need of a wide receiver. And considering Odell Beckham Jr. used to play in New York, 12th overall pick back in 2014, it seems like this could be a place that Odell could want to return to after being drafted there. And then we move to the Cowboys, who for the past couple weeks have been praising Odell Beckham Jr. Many different players making it known that they want him there in Dallas. We've seen Jerry Jones talk on the Dallas radio stations about how he would be happy if Odell Beckham Jr. came to the Dallas Cowboys. And right now, especially with the Cowboys just coming off a massive win against the Vikings, the Cowboys look like a very, very talented team and probably one of the top teams right now in the NFC. And it does make sense, I think, when you look at someone like Odell, who is so good at marketing himself and putting himself in a position to get talked about the most, to be in a position where he's, talked about constantly. It happened in Los Angeles. He picked the right team. They win a Super Bowl. Obviously, that helps him a ton. And the Cowboys do sort of seem like a nice fit for Odell Beckham Jr. But there is one final team I want to talk about that I recently came across some interesting discussion around him, and that is the Minnesota Vikings. The Minnesota Vikings, of course, just lost to the Cowboys 40-3. So I think some people could think, okay, why would Odell pick a team that just got absolutely obliterated by the Dallas Cowboys? But I feel like when you look at the NFL, it's such a week-to-week game. You never know what's going to happen when the playoffs come around, and just because a team loses 40-3 doesn't necessarily mean that they're not a good team. The Vikings are still a very good team. I think they could use someone like Odell. And I want to read here a quote from Vikings wide receiver Justin Jefferson. This was probably 4 or 5 days ago after the Vikings beat the Buffalo Bills, and he was asked by the media about Odell Beckham Jr., and apparently they had just been talking on the phone, and this is what Justin Jefferson said. I talked to him literally on the bus to the plane, him just congratulating me. He was watching the game, and we was talking about all the things that we are excited for in the future. He was just congratulating me, being a big brother, and supporting me. So this could just be a conversation that Odell's having with Justin Jefferson, discussing their future, as in, both of them on their, separate teams. But could this be a slight hint that maybe Odell is thinking about joining the Vikings? I think when you look at the Vikings, they are a very talented team. They have a solid offense, 13th best scoring offense in the NFL, one of the best wide receivers in the NFL in Justin Jefferson. I feel like I could imagine Odell joining a team like this where he could play opposite sides of Justin Jefferson, which would make this offense that much more explosive. And we have seen recently the Vikings aren't afraid to make moves. They recently made a trade for TJ Hawkinson, tight end, at the trade deadline. The only issue with the Vikings is their cap space at the moment. Currently have about $1.3 million in cap space. You compare that with both the Giants and the Cowboys. The Giants have about $2.8 million of cap space, and the Cowboys have around $6.4 million of cap space. So for Odell joining a team near the end of the year, it'll probably be a pretty small contract unless he signs some huge extension, but I would expect him to come in, play for whatever team he plays for, and then in the offseason maybe get a bigger contract situated. But one thing with cap space is teams can always finagle different things around, and while it's obviously harder if you have less amount of cap space, I think it's still possible, so I don't think the Vikings can be counted out just because of that. And so those do seem like, at least the Giants and Cowboys seem like they're at the forefront. Personally, I would say the Cowboys over the Giants. And then I do think the Vikings are sort of a sleeper team that could potentially make sense for Odell. A couple other things. His connections to the Vikings. He did play with the Rams last year, where Vikings head coach Kevin O'Connell was the Rams offensive coordinator. So who knows if they've had any discussions. Maybe he is being recruited by them. That is a very possible scenario. But at the end of the day, Odell Beckham Jr. is very good at getting people to talk about him, to discuss what he's doing, where he could be going, what he could be thinking. And the fact that he's visiting both the Giants and Cowboys right after they play each other on Thanksgiving Day, when every single person in America will likely be sitting watching that game, he's good at getting his name talked out, in the media. So we'll see where he actually decides to go. There could be other teams as well. The Bills, the Chiefs, maybe the 49ers. You never know what could happen, and I feel like in the NFL, you can never exactly predict what's going to happen, usually, because there are lots of curveballs thrown, and I feel like who knows where Odell actually wants to go. But he does seem like he wants to join a team where he can stay around for 3 or 4 years, he mentioned recently, so who knows where that could be. Personally, if I had to rank these teams, I would say Cowboys, Vikings, Giants. Those are my top 3. Feel free to comment your thoughts in the comments down below. And if you want to see more NFL content, make sure you guys subscribe, turn on the post notifications so you never miss any content. But thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you guys next time.